Discover the hidden connection. How a cleaning lady revealed the millionaire's incredible journey. Maria raced through the sprawling home, her heart beating wildly as she dusted the elegant bookshelves lined with leather-bound tomes. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and that unshakable feeling of invisibility that haunted her every day. As a single mother working as a cleaning lady in this million-dollar mansion, she sometimes felt like a ghost among the wealthy. Each corner she scrubbed reminded her of the stark divide between her life and theirs. But there was one more thing she couldn't shake. Hope. Today felt different. As she reached for a dusty book perched dangerously close to the edge of the shelf, her fingers brushed against something smooth and hidden. She pulled down a faintly aged journal, its leather cover cracked yet inviting. Curiosity, insatiable and hungry, compelled her to open it. What she discovered sent a jolt through her veins. The words flowed like a river of raw emotion, chronicling Robert's journey from rags to riches. Through poverty, prejudice, and every obstacle one could imagine, Robert's pen told of struggle and heartache, themes that resonated deeply within Maria. Her chest tightened as she read about his sleepless nights spent dreaming of a better life, just as she had for her children. In that moment, she saw him not as a millionaire, but as a man forged by fire who had battled all the odds. It was exhilarating, exchanging the daunting facade of wealth for a glimpse of shared humanity. Her eyes welled with tears not just for his challenges, but for how they mirrored her own. The thought of reaching out to him, of possibly bridging their worlds, ignited a restless fire within her. But then doubt crept in. What right did she have, a cleaner in his opulent world, to disrupt the life of a man who had seemingly left his past behind? Would he see her as just another cleaning lady? She spent the rest of the day wrestling with those insecurities, heart pounding with the urgency of deep yearning and fear. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Maria stood in front of Robert that afternoon, her hands shaking, thoughts racing, she could feel the weight of the journal tucked in her arms. This was the moment of truth. She took a deep breath and approached him, ready to lay bare the connection they shared. I read your journal, she declared boldly, her voice trembling but clear. Robert stared at her, a mix of surprise and intrigue sparking in his eyes. As they talked, the conversation flowed into the depths of life's injustices. They shared stories of dreams, aspirations, and the heavy chains of social inequality binding them. Maria felt alive, standing before him as a powerful voice of resilience. But just as the weight of their conversation settled, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. The news hit like a freight train. Her youngest child was sick. A sense of panic clawed at her heart as she glanced back at Robert. In an instant, the world they had began to build together seemed to dissolve. Maria had to leave, rushing into the chaotic uncertainty of her reality. As she disappeared, the weight of unspoken truths flickered in the air between them, leaving both her and Robert grappling with a question that echoed loudly. Could their disparate lives ever truly connect? Maria rushed out of the mansion, her heart racing faster than her feet could carry her. The world outside suddenly felt overwhelming. The grand facade of wealthy lives blurred into a kaleidoscope of worry and fear as she navigated the pristine driveway. Each step brought memories of her ill child crashing down upon her. The cough that shook tiny shoulders, the cheeks flushed with fever, and the helplessness that choked her resolve. With every car that passed, thoughts raced wildly through her mind. What if it was something serious? What if she didn't have the funds to get a doctor to see him? She fumbled for her phone and dialed her neighbor's number, who often watched her children when she was working. The ringing echoed like a metronome of unease, climbing with every second until a familiar voice broke through. Hello, Maria? Is everything okay? Clenching her jaw, Maria fought to keep her tears at bay. I need you to watch Tommy, she choked out, words tumbling over each other. She explained quickly, every syllable steeped in urgency. Of course. I'll be there in a minute. Relief washed over her like a cool breeze, but it was short-lived. The reality of her situation pressed down hard. Time was slipping away, and each tick of the clock felt like an echo of her fears. If she left her work unfinished, would she face consequences? Would the rich family that owned the mansion think less of her? But the thought of her little boy suffering made any other concern pale in comparison. She headed home, the weight of the journal left behind but still echoing in her mind. Robert's words danced in her thoughts, the struggle against adversity, the impossible hope of a better future. If he could rise from his trials, so could she. Arriving home, she was greeted by a sight that shattered her. Tommy lay on the couch, his tiny frame engulfed in blankets, his face pale and twisted in discomfort. The sight pierced her heart, and she rushed to his side, a mother's instinct kicking in. "Oh, baby," she whispered, smoothing his hair back. He barely acknowledged her, his eyes fluttering like fragile leaves in the wind. Maria grabbed a cool cloth and pressed it to his forehead, praying silently for relief. It hurt her to see him this way, and in that moment, she realized how small her world had become. As her child shivered, she felt the chains of her existence tighten. But then the memory of her conversation with Robert surged through her like a lifeline. Filled with determination, she decided. Tomorrow she would return to that mansion. She would ask Robert for help, not just for herself, but for all the mothers like her fighting unimaginable battles. If he really came from humble beginnings, surely he understood the struggle. As Maria sat by Tommy's side through the night, watching and waiting, she felt lighter, somehow emboldened by the prospect of reaching out. If Robert could understand her pain, maybe he could offer a way out, a bridge across the chasm that separated them. Hope, once a dim flicker, had reignited into a blaze. That night, sleep evaded her. She kept running over her plan in her mind. As dawn broke, so did the courage brewing in her heart. She would break through those walls of wealth and privilege. But as she prepared for the day ahead, the specter of her fears still loomed. Would Robert even listen? What if he brushed her off? She could feel the doubt creeping back in, threatening to steal her resolve. Tomorrow would either forge a new path or dash the hope she had nurtured. As she breathed in the cool morning air and straightened her back, she couldn't shake the powerful question that pulsed within her. Was she ready to face the unknown? Would she dare to trust that the connection she felt wasn't just a fantasy? As the sun crested over the horizon, Maria inhaled deeply, letting the crisp morning air fill her lungs. She felt a spark of determination igniting within her. Today was not just another day. It was a turning point, a chance to break the chains of fear that had bound her. After making sure Tommy was as comfortable as possible, she prepared for her trip back to the mansion. Each motion felt deliberate and heavy with meaning. She wore her best outfit, a simple but clean dress, hoping to put forth the dignity she felt inside. The delicate fabric might not have been designer, but she wore it like armor, a reminder of who she was, a mother fighting for her child. Taking one last look at what felt like a shrine of sickness, she whispered a soft promise to her son. "I'll be back soon, baby. I know you're fighting. Just hold on for me." The car ride felt surreal. Each stoplight pulsed with anticipation. Every passing car a reminder of the life that continued outside her closed-off reality. But within her, a storm brewed, a mix of hope and trepidation clawing at her insides. When she arrived at the mansion, the gates seemed more imposing than ever. The grand entrance loomed above her, a beautiful facade that sheltered a world so different from her own. Yet she pressed on, her heart hammering in her chest, determined to find Robert. She entered the mansion. The comforting scent of polished wood and fresh flowers enveloped her. She stepped lightly, aware of the stark contrast between her life and the opulence surrounding her. Would Robert be willing to listen? Did he understand the desperation in her voice? She navigated through the elaborate halls, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Each room she passed was a testament to wealth, gleaming with possessions that whispered of abundance she could never dream of. She finally spotted the familiar figure of Robert in the expansive living room, wrapped in thought. "Robert?" Maria's voice broke the stillness. He turned, surprise flashing across his face. He quickly masked it, revealing a warm but tentative smile. "Maria, I didn't expect to see you here. Is everything all right?" His concern was genuine, and it warmed her heart. But now was not the time for pleasantries. "Can we talk? It's important." Her voice trembled, betraying the fear she fought so hard to mask. Robert's expression shifted to serious as he nodded and gestured for her to sit. "What's going on?" he asked, leaning forward, sincere curiosity etched on his face. Maria took a deep breath, mustering every ounce of courage she had. "Is my son Tommy. He's sick. I don't have enough money for the care he needs. I don't know where to turn." Her voice cracked, and tears threatened to spill, but she pushed them back, refusing to show weakness. Robert's gaze transformed, concern deepening. "Have you taken him to a doctor yet? What do you need?" She hesitated. Was this truly happening? The moment felt surreal. I need help, Robert. Not just for Tommy but for other mothers struggling. I heard your story, how you made it despite everything. I thought maybe you could understand, maybe even want to help." As she spoke, she felt an invisible weight lift. She had exposed her vulnerabilities, but the fear of rejection still gnawed at her. He studied her, his brow furrowed, contemplating her words. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a glimpse of something familiar lying discarded on the table, a worn journal, the very one that had ignited her hope. Robert followed her gaze and let out a soft sigh. "Maria, but just then, the sound of a ringing phone disrupted them. It vibrated urgently, pulling Robert's attention away. "I'm sorry, I have to take this." Watching him step away, Maria's heart plummeted. What if this was her only chance? Fear crept back into her mind like a creeping shadow. Would he realize he could turn away, leaving her to face the unimaginable alone? Could she get through to him before he hung up? She stood at the precipice of uncertainty, the thought racing through her. What if this was the key to changing everything? Would he understand the gravity of her plea when she desperately needed it most? As Robert walked away, Maria felt the air grow heavier around her. Silence enveloped the room, broken only by the soft ring of his phone. She caught herself biting her lip, swallowing the lump that had formed in her throat. This was far from the kind of conversation she had envisioned, the one that would lead to help. Not uncertainty. Her eyes flitted around the opulent room. Pictures adorned the walls, each frame showcasing a twinkling smile, a testament to happiness. Did they understand struggle? Did they know what it felt like to hold on to hope with everything you had? Doubts rushed in, threatening to drown her. But then, she remembered Tommy's laughter, his small hands grasping her fingers, pulling her through a world that felt dark yet filled with light because of him. She wouldn't let that slip away just like that. Remembering his tiny face, she took a steadying breath, waiting for Robert to return, determination swirling in her chest. When he stepped back, his brows were still furrowed, concern etched in every line of his face. "Sorry about that, Maria. What were you saying?" She hesitated, trying to piece together her thoughts while glancing down at the table where the journal sat. Felt like a lifeline. "Robert, I just need you to understand how real this is for me. Tommy isn't just my son. He's my reason to keep fighting. I don't want to lose hope in him or for him. There are so many mothers like me out there." His gaze softened. "I believe you, but you need to be clear with me. What exactly do you need?" "I need the means to get him treatment. I can't do this alone, and I know I'm not the only one." Her voice strengthened with each word. "Your story inspired me. If you could just use your resources." Before she finished her thought, Robert nodded, standing up taller. "Let us make some calls. I hope these resources can extend more than financial support. You may need connections to get the right care as well." "Thank you," she breathed, relief washing over her, though a small part of her still trembled in uncertainty. Felt unreal. Was this truly happening? Could this ordinary mother get a taste of extraordinary assistance? As Robert began to dial numbers, Maria felt a mixture of hope and anxiety. She didn't want this moment to shatter like glass. But then, as he conversed with someone on the phone, she noticed the journal again. Memories of flipping through its pages came flooding back the dreams it held, the truth it had sparked within her. What stories had Robert shared with it? "Is that your journal?" Maria dared to ask, her curiosity bubbling to the surface. He turned, looking startled. "Yes, it's something I've kept for years." A moment of vulnerability flickered across his features. "It helped me process everything." "What do you mean, everything?" Robert's expression darkened momentarily, the same way clouds block sunlight. "It's a long story," he finally said, his voice low. "One that might just change what you think you know about me." The shift in his demeanor intrigued her. She felt a knot of anticipation tighten in her chest. "I want to know," she insisted, craving to understand this man who was offering her a sliver of hope. Robert hesitated, clearly torn. She could see he was weighing his words carefully. "All right, but this will take a moment, Maria. You're going to need to understand not just my successes, but the struggles too." She nodded, desperate for clarity, for a connection that might guide them both through this darkness. If Robert could share that with her, perhaps they could forge a path forward together. He began to recount pieces of his past, the hidden struggles, the sacrifices, and the intensity of his rise. Maria felt the room shift around her. Questions bubbled in her heart. If his journey included wounds just as deep as hers, could they impact Tommy's fate in a way more profound than mere charity? Was this the beginning of something bigger than either of them had envisioned? A quest that could bind their fates together, or unravel them entirely? The tension hung between them, thick as the air before a storm, as she braced herself for the revelations that could change everything. Robert's voice softened further, and Maria could feel the weight of his story before he even spoke. "I grew up in a small town, much like many others. My family had very little. My father worked double shifts just to put food on the table. We struggled a lot." He paused, looking off into the distance, searching for the right words. Maria held her breath, feeling their shared weight of hardship. They both occupied different worlds but shared similar battles. "I remember crying myself to sleep, wondering if things would ever get better, hoping my dad would find a way to get us out. And then one day he didn't come home." His voice cracked, and Maria could see a flicker of pain behind his eyes. "He was in an accident. We lost not just his income but a part of us." Tears threatened to spill down Maria's cheeks. She thought of Tommy's laughter, how fleeting moments could change everything. "I'm so sorry, Robert," she whispered, feeling rawness in her heart. "I channeled that pain, poured it into my work. I promised myself I wouldn't let his death be in vain. I created a small business, just cleaning offices at first. I worked nights and turned every penny I earned into growth." Each word painted vivid images of his relentless journey. "Eventually, I moved on to bigger projects and investments. It took years and countless failures before I could finally breathe a little easier." Maria studied him closely, the way his clenched fists slowly relaxed as he spoke of his past. She admired his tenacity, a perfect reflection of the hope she held for Tommy. "But I still carry that loss with me. It's a part of who I am. And it drives me to help those who are struggling. What if we worked together?" she suggested. "What if your experience could be the bridge to make a real difference for families like mine?" His dark gaze flickered with interest. "You actually think we could create something from this?" "Why not?" Maria felt a spark of strength. "With your drive and my understanding of these families, we could build a campaign, reach people who are lost and alone just like we were." Robert's eyes lit up for a moment until doubt crept back. "It's a tall order, Maria. People are often too afraid or too lost to seek help, or they don't know where to start." "Exactly. That's why they need us. Together, we could create a support system. We could not only provide financial assistance but emotional support as well." She could see him begin to process her words. "What if we start with the real stories, the ones that show the struggle and the hope so that others can rally?" He leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing as he considered it. "It's more work than you can imagine, and it might not work out. There's a risk." Life is always risky, she replied, leaning forward, her heart racing with passion. But what's more dangerous is doing nothing. Tommy's life is worth every ounce of effort I can give. A silence wrapped around them as Robert absorbed her words. Then he nodded slowly, the tension in the room easing a little. All right, let us discuss a plan. But we have to be prepared for what it may take out of us emotionally. Yes, I understand. Maria's spirit soared as they began sketching an outline of what could be. Each word exchanged felt like stepping stones toward something tremendous. Before they could delve deeper, a sudden loud bang jolted them both. Startled, they turned to see the door burst open. A frantic figure rushed in, wide-eyed and breathless. Robert, there's been an accident, we need your help now. Maria's heart sank. This sudden twist brought forth a ripple of dread, the kind that echoed unsaid fears. What would this mean for their shared vision? A challenge they hadn't anticipated had just intruded, and it was urgent. With uncertainty flickering between them, she realized their journey was only just beginning. Would this accident serve as a roadblock or another catalyst for change? Robert sprang to his feet, a rush of urgency washing over him. What happened? Who's involved? His eyes were sharp, his voice firm but edged with concern. The young man who burst in had wild eyes, breathing heavy and rapid. It's a construction site accident, Robert. They're saying one of the crew is in critical condition. They need you to assess the situation, it's bad. Maria felt her stomach twist. This was the reality Robert fought against every day, the injuries, the pain, the unexpected hurdles that didn't just affect one, but ripple through families and communities. Her pulse quickened, not just from Robert's urgency, but from the weight of uncertainty that hung thick in the air. Okay. Let me grab my stuff, Robert muttered, already moving toward the door with purpose. He glanced back at Maria. Stay here. I'll be right back. But she began. But he was already out the door, the sound of hurried footsteps echoing down the hall. Left alone, Maria felt a wave of confusion wash over her. Did their plan just dissolve? Was this the reality Robert couldn't escape? She sat back down, the warmth fading from the space they had just shared. It was almost as if the room was closing in on her. The vision they created just seconds before feeling more fragile than ever. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. She fought the urge to pace, instead tapping her fingers nervously on the table. Hours spent on their vision felt like a flicker of light now extinguished by the shadows of hard reality. Was this how quickly things could change? Suddenly, the door swung back open, and Robert returned, his expression a mix of exhaustion and determination. They need me there, he said, voice firmer this time. I have to go. But Maria, you have to promise me something. Don't lose sight of our plan. We need to build this. She blinked hard, feeling the urgency in his words. Robert, I can't just sit here while you handle that. What if no? I need you to start drafting ideas, thoughts, anything you can think of. He placed a hand on her shoulder, stern yet reassuring. This isn't just about me. This is bigger than all of us. We need to be ready to support those who need it most. Promise me. I promise, she whispered, feeling the weight of the moment. With that, Robert was off again, leaving her alone with her thoughts. The echoes of footsteps faded, and she inhaled deeply, trying to catch her breath. What were the first steps? She pulled out a notebook, grabbing a pen, letting the chaos around her spur creativity as she scribbled notes. Ideas spun through her mind, stories of families, ways to reach out, support lines to create. Piece by piece, she began to form a plan. Each stroke of her pen felt like a lifeline thrown out into the dark waters of uncertainty. Just then, her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a message from her sister asking for an update on Tommy, expressing concern about his condition. As Maria typed out a reassuring response, a sense of urgency surged within her. The moment felt pivotal. Tommy's voice echoed in her head, reminding her of the laughter that still lingered in their home. She had to carry that hope not just for him, but for the many others who felt lost and unheard. But just as she finished her message, another notification pinged. The news headline nearly took her breath away. Local construction accident claims life of worker. The tragic words burned in her mind. Reality crashed back down hard. The shadows of loss loomed over her once again, now even closer. How would this change everything? With a heart full of resolve, she knew she wasn't just fighting for her son, but for everyone caught in the tides of loss. Would their dreams still thrive amidst the chaos? Or would this tragedy extinguish the flicker of hope they dared to build? Maria's heart raced as she reread the headline. Her palms grew slick with sweat, and she could hardly comprehend the reality sinking in. A life lost, another family's world shattered. The image of a smiling face, just like Tommy's, crowded her mind. She clenched her pen so tightly it threatened to snap. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to focus. The notebook spread before her now felt like both a canvas and a burden. What could she possibly write that would capture this moment of pain, provide solace, or inspire action? Each word held weight. She needed to tread carefully. Support lines she scribbled, pausing to consider how best to phrase it. Community resilience, would that resonate? The words danced on the paper, a fragile promise of hope. Writing felt like a lifeline, tethering her to purpose amidst chaos. A soft knock at the door startled her. She looked up to see Jenna, one of her friends from the neighborhood, poking her head in. "I heard about the accident. Is Robert okay?" Maria shook her head, unable to form the words. Instead, she motioned for Jenna to come in. "They need him at the site. I'm just trying to get organized here." Jenna's eyes darted to the mess of notes scattered on the table. "Looks like you're doing a lot more than just sitting around," she said gently, taking a seat. "What can I do to help?" With a sigh, Maria felt the heaviness lift ever so slightly, warmed by the offer. "I don't even know where to start. There is so much to do, and now our plan, I just don't know if it can survive this." Jenna leaned forward, a determined spark in her eyes. "If you think their lives are worth fighting for, then they are. That's what your plan can do, bring them together, help them heal." Despite herself, Maria felt a flicker of hope. "You're right. We need to create community gatherings, offer counseling, something to unite everyone. It shouldn't just end here with loss." Encouraged by the momentum, she returned to her notes, jotting down ideas faster now. Support groups, fundraisers to aid families. "See? You're already making it happen," Jenna chimed in, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. "And we can ask others to join in. It can't just be us. We need the community's strength." In that moment, Maria realized the plan could evolve. It didn't have to crumble under the weight of tragedy. "Maybe we can hold a meeting next week. Gather everyone together, share stories and resources. People need to feel like they're not alone." As she spoke, her voice grew steadier. The fear and uncertainty that had tangled her heart shifted into a fiercer resolve. With Jenna there, the suffocating isolation began to break apart. Just then, Maria's phone vibrated again. She hesitated, glancing at the screen. The notification read, "Breaking. Local family faces overwhelming medical bills following fatal accident." A wave of nausea washed over her. In the midst of planning, the reality of the situation struck hard. No family should face this alone. The urgency returned. "Jenna," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "we need to act now. We can't let this happen. Not on our watch." Jenna nodded, and they both leaned into their shared vision, determined to weave something beautiful out of the wreckage. As the evening light poured through the window, they found themselves drafting not just plans, but a way forward, a beacon of hope amidst despair. Would their newfound community strength be enough to rally those around them? Would they become the voices for those who felt invisible, silenced in their grief? The clock continued to tick, reminding them that every moment counted. What would it take to truly transform despair into a path of healing? The next morning brought a gray sky, matching the somber mood that clung to the neighborhood like a thick fog. Maria brewed coffee in silence, the machine's gurgling only amplifying her anxious thoughts. She had spent half the night brainstorming ways to unify their community, but the enormity of the challenge still felt suffocating. With a steaming cup in hand, she settled down at the table surrounded by notes, her heart heavy. Just as she glanced over the list of ideas, A sudden surge of determination forced her to ponder the question. How could they turn this tragedy into a turning point? The doorbell rang, breaking through her contemplation. She opened the door to find David, a local contractor known for helping the community during hard times. He stood with a clipboard, his face serious but warm. "Maria, I heard about the accident. I've come to see how we can help," he said, stepping inside. "Thank you, David." She felt the weight of his kindness. "We're trying to put together a community gathering next week. Something to support the families affected. I worry it's too little, too late." "No, it's a great start," he replied, confidence pouring from his voice. "We have to show them they aren't alone. I can rustle up some volunteers. We can set up a space, provide food." As he spoke, Maria caught flickers of hope igniting in her chest. With each word, ideas began to flow. "What if we had local businesses contribute?" she suggested, emboldened by the thought of uniting the community's strengths. "A bake sale, maybe a charity auction." David nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. People love to support each other, especially when they see the need. We can draw in participation from everyone." Encouraged by David's enthusiasm, Maria wasted no time. They sketched out an outline for the gathering. When Jenna arrived later that morning, Maria felt a palpable spark of energy overtake the room as they all exchanged ideas and pledged to reach out to others. A small spark was growing into a fire. Just then, Maria's phone buzzed again, interrupting the brainstorming session. It was a message from a friend, Laura, who worked at the local hospital. "I just got off the phone with Robert. He wants to hold a vigil for the families. Can we help with that?" A mix of relief and renewed urgency washed over Maria. "Yes, that's exactly what we need." She turned to David and Jenna, her excitement palpable. "If we can combine the gathering with the vigil, it creates a powerful statement. People can grieve together while also finding hope. Let us make it a moment to remember," David said, a grin spreading across his face. As they dove deeper into planning, the gravity of the situation shifted. They weren't just planning events. They were becoming catalysts for change, not just for themselves, but for an entire community fractured by grief. Hours passed, and the weight that had once pulled Maria down now lifted as she connected with others. People responded to their call for volunteers, sharing stories of grief and resilience. But beneath it all, Maria felt a stirring that made her pause. With every step forward, questions started to entwine with answers. Could they truly heal together? Could this small community really emerge stronger in the face of such profound loss? As they wrapped up the day, Maria glanced out the window. The sun broke through the clouds, casting bright rays onto the damp street below, signaling new beginnings. But just as hope surged within, a sudden realization struck. Nothing prepared her for the deep desire hidden behind some of those faces. What if the accident that had brought them together had also unearthed long-buried stories, secrets waiting to be shared? With that thought lingering in her mind, Maria turned back to her friends. "We're building a bridge. But what else is waiting to come out when we start talking?" The clock continued ticking, reminding her that sometimes the biggest transformations come when you least expect them. Would they discover more than just shared grief? Would the unseen connections twist through their lives, revealing truths that could change everything? The gathering was set for Saturday, just 1 week away. Each day that passed felt heavier yet lighter at the same time, a mix of anticipation and dread, like standing on the threshold of something monumental. Maria filled every waking moment with preparations. Flyers were posted around the neighborhood, and she spent hours phoning local businesses, seeking donations. Somehow, she felt every small gesture was a thread weaving their community closer. The day of the vigil arrived, brightened with an unusual warmth that felt almost comforting. Maria stood near the park, where a makeshift stage had been set up, surrounded by volunteer helpers buzzing with energy. The scent of grilled food wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of laughter and chatter as families began to gather. She felt a mix of nerves and excitement swirling in her chest, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her shirt as evening approached. The sun dipped low, casting golden light through the trees, and the first notes of music floated in the air. Maria, standing next to David and Jenna, scanned the growing crowd. She saw familiar faces, neighbors exchanging smiles, each of them carrying their own burden of grief, yet displaying a shared determination. "Look at this," David said, nudging her gently. "They've come out for each other." Maria felt her heart swell. But even as she basked in the moment, a shadow flickered at the edge of her mind. These people were coming together in sorrow, yet could there be an undercurrent of secrets, pain, or guilt that hadn't been spoken? She scanned for signs of distress among the faces, but every exchange she witnessed poured warmth into her heart. Laura stepped up onto the stage to welcome everyone, her voice clear and steady. "Thank you all for being here today. This event is about support, but it's also about coming together as a community to remember those we lost." The crowd remained silent, a mixture of reverence and pain hanging thick in the air as the tribute began. Something began to shift in the crowd. Tears streamed down faces, a confession of shared loss. Yet with every note played and every candle lit, Maria felt something else, a shift, a dead weight being lifted. It was as if the act of grieving together allowed for unshed stories to emerge. With every shared glance, every offering of comfort, old wounds opened slightly, creating space for healing. But then, in the midst of this solemn moment, a voice broke through the silence. "I have something to say." It was a woman, tall and anxious, stepping hesitantly towards the stage. Maria's heart raced. Who was she? The crowd parted slightly, granting her the space she needed. As the woman glanced at the faces around her, Maria sensed a certain urgency in her posture, a desperation intertwined with a hint of hope. "I don't want us just to grieve. There are things we've never talked about, stories that connect us even deeper than this loss. We can't leave them buried anymore." A collective breath seemed to draw in the air around them, anticipation hanging thick. In that moment, Maria recognized an unspoken question rising. Were they truly ready to confront what lay beneath the surface? As the woman began to speak, sharing memories that were raw and painful, Maria felt her heart thundering. She realized the ripples of loss had the power to uncover treasures of connection, not just sadness. What other secrets were waiting in the shadows? As the crowd leaned in closer, entranced by the unfolding revelations, Maria found herself wondering, were they truly prepared to face the truths that time had hid away? The journey of healing might just lead them to places they never imagined they would go. The night fell dimly around the park, yet within its embrace, an unexpected energy stirred. The woman's voice, resonant and trembling, pulled the crowd in like a gravitational force. "I lost my brother in the same accident that took your loved one. We need to talk about the lives that were lost, not just their absence but the dreams they carried too." As she spoke, Maria felt the atmosphere shift. An unspoken agreement hung in the air. It was time to break open the suffocating silence that had held them captive. One by one, faces emerged from the crowd, stepping forward with trembling lips, sharing not just grief but stories of resilience, of love, of shared humanity. "I've been afraid to tell people I lost my job when the construction site shut down. But I'm still trying to provide for my kids," came another voice, quaking with vulnerability. With every confession, a fragile thread linked them, each story a piece of tapestry weaving through their shared pain. Maria's heart swelled with emotion as she saw heads nodding in understanding, a bond forming right before her eyes. Robert, standing at the edge of the gathering, couldn't tear his gaze away. What had started as a simple effort to lend a hand had ballooned into an awakening, sparking connection deeper than any charity could provide. Instead of a vigil merely consumed with sorrow, they were crafting a platform where thoughts and burdens could be shared rather than buried. It ignited something profound within him as Maria listened intently. She realized they were not solely survivors of tragedy. They were warriors with scars telling tales of bravery, fighting their own battles. And just like Robert had once done with his journal, they were using their voices to carve a new path forward. With her heart bubbling over, she finally stepped onto the stage. "If we can stand here today, united in sorrow, can we not forge strength in togetherness?" Her voice echoed, laced with raw determination. "We have felt the sting of loss, but we are still here. Together we can build a community of support for each other." We can start a foundation, one that acknowledges our pain while focusing on what we can achieve together. The crowd erupted into murmurs, some excited, others tentative. But hope started to pulse in the space between them. In that moment, Robert stepped forward, intertwining his fate with Maria's proposal. I'm with you. My past has shown me how to face adversity, and I'm ready to use everything I've learned to help set this in motion. With those simple words, a collective breath of relief seemed to wash over the crowd. It was a turning point, a promise whispered within the core of their assembly. Together, they were stronger. By the end of the evening, they had each committed to something more, a vision crafted from every story told. Plans for support groups, efforts to fund healthcare needs for the families impacted, moments to celebrate and remember those lost. As the last of the candles flickered and the crowds began to disperse, Maria felt a warmth surge through her. It wasn't just about keeping hope alive. It had morphed into action, a commitment to transforming grief into something powerful. She turned to Robert, eyes shining brightly. Thank you for believing in this. I believe in all of us, he replied softly, and how we can show the world what it means to rise together. Weeks turned to months, and the foundation blossomed, thriving on the heartbeats of those it served. Fundraisers, community gatherings, resources and connections all dynamically grew from their tragic start. Maria and Robert formed a close bond, both mentors and friends, deeply intertwined in the mission they had embarked upon together. The ripple effect of that tragic day extended far beyond what they had dared to imagine, reaching into the hearts of those who felt unseen and unheard. Their first anniversary celebration of the foundation. The park overflowed with laughter, flowers, and faces painted with stories, arms wrapped around one another, chiming with hope. As Maria shared her own journey, she looked out at the crowd, seeing the very tapestry they had woven, torn pieces of grief stitched together with threads of love and strength. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks as she witnessed transformation blooming in their community. With joy abounding and resilience blossoming, the echo of their laughter danced among the trees. Together, they were more than a community. They were a force, a testament to what could be forged through loss, hope, and an unwavering spirit. As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the park with hues of gold and warmth, Maria smiled, knowing they had turned their tragedy into something beautiful, a bridge uniting lives that once felt disconnected and showing the world that even from the darkest moments, light could always emerge. Now is the moment you've been waiting for. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this incredible journey. Your reaction matters, so comment your feelings about this inspiring ending. Don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of walking this path together.